It's a beautiful day for a podcast, I tell you it's so. How are you, Mr. Door Raptor?
Doing well. It's March.
It is. Took us a day longer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
I kind of
Luckily, nothing broke on Leap Day.
Nothing broke except that rhythm game for Final Fantasy, which is hilarious.
And I think Need for Speed as well, like an EA game as well. Something from EA.
It's so funny, dude. Like, what are the odds that we go through Y2K, but in 2024, Y2K?
Oh, WRC got broken from EA, so EA Sports WRC. Actually, also a gas station in the Netherlands that does not have like any people working there. You just go there, and that also broke because of Leap Day.
Oh, really?
So,
oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. But what was for? I think one of the things they said you had to do is change the console dates to March 1st, right? And then it worked.
Yeah.
So
Like, if you just kind of fudge it, it's fine. It's just they coded it in a way or had a calendar in the depths of the software that didn't have a leap day accounted for. So when it read that as the date, all these programs just freaked out.
What?
Like, that's not real. It can't be a day that doesn't exist. It can't be March 19th. That's not a thing, So anyway, who's excited for Dragon's Dogma 2? I am. You better believe it, Diggs. I'm very excited.
Yeah, we're in the month of Dragon's Dogma 2 and Rise of the Ronin. So yeah, I know you're not maybe too high on Rise of the Ronin. I have to say though, the new combat stuff they showed looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think people are. I mean, naturally, people latch on to what they want to hear or what they want to be upset about. Like, I will die on the hill that I think lots of the things they've shown for Rise of the Ronin look very clunky, and if they were coming from many studios, especially like a studio like Ubisoft, they would be getting crucified for it.
Oh yeah.
Of course, there's kind of an exception because they have phenomenal combat systems in their games. They generally know what they're doing when it comes to the gameplay side of things. I just think that the presentation side of things also matters. So I've done plenty of clips talking about it, and that's pissed off a handful of people. One guy I saw was like, I can tell you have no idea that these guys were behind Neo, because if you did, you wouldn't be saying any of this. It's like, I would be, though, because it's plainly visible. Like, the stuff we've done in those clips, it's just like we show the like really choppy animations, the frame dips, the really strange artifacting, the fact that NPCs in the cities don't actually touch the ground when they walk. They're like 4 or 5 inches above the ground. Like, we point to those things because it stands out, and in the trailers they do half-second clips, so you can barely notice it. But when you play the full game, you better believe you're going to notice that stuff. So
we'll see, yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like I don't see that stuff. Like,
yeah.
Why would I do that?
No, it makes sense. I mean, it's just what you said. Like, because they made Neo, people are like, yeah, but we know the gameplay will probably be great. We will see. I hope they delay it so we have more time to play Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, well,
but it's probably not going to happen.
The big question this month, and I want to hear from everybody in chat too, you can only pick one. Which are you picking? I can do a poll in YouTube chat, and or actually I'll do a straw poll so everybody can vote. If you can only choose one, Dragon's Dogma 2 or Rise of the Ronin, which do you choose? It's a tough question.
Yeah, I will probably I think Dragon's Dogma 2. I think we talked about it before. I think for Dragon's Dogma 2, I think that game will have more surprises. I think we can kind of expect what Rise of the Ronin will probably be. I think it will be a very fun experience, but I think Dragon's Dogma will do more interesting things.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rise of the Ronin guys, they do some great stuff, but I do think that they they generally do like 8 out of 10 games. They do a solid 80%. It's like a B minus, and that's great. That's good. There's a place for those, and I think a lot of people will genuinely have a great time with it. But Dragon's Dogma 2 looks like it could end up being like a 9 or maybe
Yeah.
a 7. Like I think that one at least is a little more exciting because it's either going to be awesome or it's not going to live up to the expectations they've kind of set
And I
for
think it will
themselves.
have a way longer tail. I think people will talk longer about Dragon's Dogma than Rise to Ronin
I totally
because of the
agree.
pawn system and stuff like that.
Totally agree.
So
And you guys are generally agreeing, like 72-73% of people are choosing Dragon's Dogma 2 over Rise of the Ronin, which is, I think that lines up roughly with what I would have
yeah,
expected. Now it's at like
for sure.
75%. So yeah.
Now, Luke, we have to talk about something because I also saw it in the chat here. Key No Man's Sky and Prime also in the comments under the previous stream. What happened to the segment on Joe Raptor's dating life?
That's a fantastic question. Thank you for bringing it up. Segment 1, Joe Raptor. How's your dating life going? Go for it.
Well, I mean, I will share an update if there is an update. No, it's been kind of quiet, and I am like experiencing this single life. I mean, it's kind of interesting how this podcast kind of started in the sort of when I was also, if you go back to like the older podcast, you will see that I'm like in a really weird room. I was like living with a friend of mine for the time being because I was going through through the breakup with my ex. And so I'm kind of still in the single life, but so now I'm getting that question a lot. And it's kind of, I don't know. It's on one hand annoying, but on the other hand, I get it. I've been like that as well to other people that have been like in my circle being single. It's just there's always probably something happening. But we of course talked about the last update was that I had a date, and I think I did give the update on that already. Was that it went pretty well, but it was not
Not
probably
a
for.
love connection.
No, exactly. Well, you still remember it, nice.
Yeah.
And we had some conversation or like some chat about that. So, it's been quiet ever since. Like I will keep everyone up to date. I think it's we wanted to do it as a weekly segment, and maybe at one point it should be because it might push me to maybe go out there more or something.
Oh yeah, no, like I've been planning, like I miss going to the gym a lot. I miss like bursting out of my shirts and like feeling really really super strong and swole. So I've been like, okay, I think what I do this like summer is my whole thing is we're gonna get in shape together, fam, and I'm gonna come on stream like everybody in chat is going to like shame me if I didn't go to the gym a certain number of times since the last stream, and like I'm going to use public humiliation to motivate myself. And so if I fail, everybody gets to tease me, and I think that that's a good way of doing it. So
that's certainly one way to do it. But I do think that
that's one way. Hold on, let me.
It's certainly one way. I think you like in my experience, because I've been like going to the gym now often as well. Like the first few months, it's just kind of hard, and then after a while, it kind of gets into your routine. But I also hear stories, especially in Amsterdam, that people that the dating scene is so like automated, so that you have like 2 hours and then you always go to the same bar, and at one point all the stories blend together. You don't know which person told the story, and you're like, oh, didn't you go there? And no, and then you kind of think of someone else. So so I don't want to fall in that trap. But so I will keep everyone posted. I'm happy that everyone is interested, and I totally get it.
It's like,
for now though,
if the podcast is like the core TV show, your like romantic life is like the B plot that is like underneath everything, and then in season 4 it spikes and becomes the whole thing. So who knows, maybe maybe in like a year or two of doing the podcast, the show's just gonna turn into Joe Raptor's love life, and we're just gonna...
it's like and then someone who didn't listen to the podcast for like half a year is like, when are they gonna start
Dude,
talking
they
about
fell
games?
off so hard. What is happening?
We change a category on Spotify and stuff.
Yeah. To dating advice. Tweb, thank you for 6 months. We are here for the rise of Jor. Yes, absolutely. Mia, also thank you for becoming a member or re-upping your membership as well. And Cody, thank you for the generous super chat. How did you two go about starting the podcast, and also top 2 or 3 gaming voice actors of all time? I mean, I guess the quick one would just be the voice actors. For me, the easy picks, because I'm lazy, I'm just going to do the most famous ones that I can think of. Troy Baker, Nolan North, and Yong Ya.
Okay, one does not.
Matt Mercer. I'll say Matt Mercer for the third.
For me, it's I always am afraid that I mispronounce it, but it's Abubakar Salim. So the one who did Bayek.
He's very good. That's a great one.
He did a fantastic job.
Yeah, that's a great one. Ashley Johnson, also an easy one.
Oh yeah.
Roger Clark. There's so many great ones. So many great voice actors and actresses out there. Ashley Burke, I believe. Yeah.
Who does like MJ in and also did Abby.
Oh God. Pooh.
Yeah, she's my favorite like voice actress.
Abby. Laura Bailey.
Laura Bailey. Oh yeah, I think she's amazing. She's insane.
Her versatility is so crazy.
Yeah. It's like, wait, she did like completely different characters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Arthur Morgan. Yeah.
Yuri Lowenthal is also great. Yeah, there's a lot of phenomenally talented voice actors and actresses out there. Technically, Jack Black is a video game voice actor. You are correct. He is technically a video game voice actor.
He does Claptrap, right?
Yeah, now he is. Did you ever play his old what is the name
Brutal
of that game,
Legends.
guys? Yeah. Brutal Legends.
Yeah.
Did you play that?
I think I played the demo or something, and then I was like, wow, this is pretty bad.
It's one of those games that is like great in the first hour and a half, and then everything else is like they blew their load early. It didn't have much staying power. But anyway, that's a great question. As for how we started the podcast, we have both covered Assassin's Creed stuff for a long time. We've both kind of orbited each other for a long time with our content, and naturally our fan bases kind of overlap. So I was always hearing people bringing up Joe Raptor in comment sections and in streams and stuff. And so when we were like both around the same time thinking, maybe we should do a podcast, Joe Raptor reached out and was like, hey, you want to like actually do this thing? And I'm very glad we did.
Yeah.
So
same here. And it's a lot of
Drap's
fun.
like, no, I regret it.
Yeah. Can we get on with it?
Anyway. Oh man.
But let's look at the you talk Assassin's Creed. We have some news. Is it time? We
do. Thank you also, Rich and Isaac, for the super chats as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Sexiness overload on screen. Yeah, you're damn right. So what happened this week? I made a video on it. Did you make a video on your end?
Yeah. It just went live.
Okay.
I had to jump into Skull and Bones for it again.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you give everybody, since it's fresh on your mind, a little breakdown?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. So where do we want to start? I think Tom Henderson put up an Assassin's Creed Infinity sort of article during the Assassin's Creed Showcase in 2022. They of course announced what Assassin's Creed Infinity is going to be, the hub for the franchise moving forward, starting with Assassin's Creed Red at the end of the year. It should launch at the same time as that game, that RPG set in Japan. And it was always kind of like, okay, but what does it mean? Is it just a launcher? The modern day will be set in Infinity, but how's it all going to work? And one of the things that immediately jumped to my mind was the Call of Duty HQ. And I'm not sure if you, Luke, engage with that often. I did not really. Like, I played a lot of the Call of Duty campaigns back in the day, but at one point when the single player campaigns kind of took a nosedive in terms of quality, I kind of backed out. So I have never really installed the sort of Call of Duty HQ or sort of thing they got going. But for people who also are not really familiar with it, I did look it up and looked at some people using it, and it's basically every time you boot up a Call of Duty experience now, you go to this hub first, and there you see all the games. So you see Modern Warfare 2, 3, Warzone. You can jump into the DMC mode, the zombies, the single player. Basically, everything that is currently ongoing for Call of Duty, you see in this hub. You can see the current battle pass, the store, and of course, Assassin's Creed. They first were launching one game at a time, and that was the sole focus. But they want to go to having multiple things live alongside each other, and then to kind of immediately communicate with the fans, hey, this is going on. That's kind of the idea behind the Infinity Hub.
Yeah.
And we learned some crucial details. Yeah. What do you
I
think?
was just going to say the other one that people might be familiar with. I am actually pulling it up just to show people, because you might not be familiar with it if you don't play Call of Duty or other such games. But probably the most iconic one recently has just been Fortnite, and I think that's where they're getting the primary inspiration. So I actually have it pulled up here, and you can kind of see how I initially envisioned Assassin's Creed Infinity was basically like an in-game hub, kind of like you would see in an MMO or something, where you're physically walking around a space. You physically walk your character to a store shop or store owner to go to a shop, or you walk through this door, which is like a portal to AC Red, and then this portal is to the multiplayer game, and this and that. How it works in Fortnite is just that there's a menu, and you still have the shop, the item shop, the battle pass, you have all of that stuff. But then beneath here, you have all of these different modes. You have Zero Build, you have the Team Rumble, the racing mode, the main stage music thing, Lego Fortnite, regular Battle Royale. And speaking of, these player numbers are insane. They have 700,000 players in the regular Battle Royale, 70,000 in the Lego Fortnite, 440,000 in Zero Build, like crazy player numbers. But this is basically how they are pitching it, that there's going to be a centralized app where if you want to play AC Red, you just click here. If you want to play the multiplayer game, you click here. If you want to play the co-op one, you go here. If you want to do the next whatever it is, the one coming in 2026, that one, you click here. Hexe. So it's supposed to streamline the whole thing. My question is how this actually helps the player. What does this improve? But we'll get to that.
Yeah. So right now, and that's kind of, I think, also with this article, we're kind of hearing sort of the sort of information like on paper, and we kind of have to see how Ubisoft implements it, because right now it just sounds more like a thing that is nice for Ubisoft instead of for us, the player. So let's go over some of the details that Tom Henderson shared. And of course, Tom Henderson, super reliable. He has been right many times before.
Oh, yeah.
So he notes the exchange. It will be an item shop offering players the opportunity to purchase daily and weekly in-game cosmetics for Red's two protagonists, Naue and Yasuke. And I'm still not sure if I fully pronounced the Naue right, but we will find out soon enough.
I will not even try. Yes.
That's maybe the best option. And I think I want to quickly touch on that real quick. So again, we talked about it in Fortnite and Call of Duty as well. They have the store tab already, and what they are going to change here, and that's why I jumped into Skull and Bones. And when I was playing Skull and Bones, I already thought, oh yay, they might do this for Assassin's Creed as well, and it seems to be the case. So instead of having a full Helix shop, so the shop is of course not new, but the first time you boot up a new Assassin's Creed, there are usually like every new Assassin's Creed, there are more packs at launch that you can buy. So Fall had, I think, 3 or something. and then some naval packs. So basically armor sets, weapons that you can buy for real money. But in Skull and Bones, they only have a weekly selection. So there's like a countdown timer going to 0, and you only have that week to buy these items. And after that, they might never come back. They might come back after half a year, etc. So they're kind of creating this FOMO. If you want to get this really cool, unique armor set that likely does some crazy abilities, you have to pay it this week. Otherwise, it will be gone. And instead of it being available for always, they're now just going to tweak that, which is an interesting change. And again, Skull and Bones is doing that as well. They're probably seeing that more people are then buying it because they're afraid that they might miss out or something.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes back with all of this that we're hearing. Like, it's all about the store. It's all about the shops. It's all about the battle pass and this and that. And we're going to get into another one of these in just a second. But like, the pitch in Fortnite is that you unify everything under the umbrella of Fortnite, a Lego Fortnite, the racing, the music modes, all the player created modes, the creative modes, all of that. You put it under the Fortnite umbrella because then all the cosmetics are shared across all the games and game modes. All of that stuff that you purchase goes across. XP can help you on the battle pass in these various different modes. So you don't have to just play one mode to level up that specific battle pass versus this one versus that one. So it's many modes and many different games, basically, all helping you and the shops all reinforce usability across all those games. As far as we can tell with this, it's not going to work quite like that. And I don't think that it's necessarily going to drive interest in the same way. Like, it's fun to play with a Golden Bender skin. If you're a fan of Futurama, that's fun. If you want the Peter Griffin skin, you can get that. If you want to look like a banana, you can play the game like that. And it's fun in the different modes, but I don't know if that works in Assassin's Creed, where somebody's like, yeah, I want to play in this like feudal Japan setting, but look like Iron Man. Like, I don't know if that drives as much interest.
I mean, I think that's not really the issue. I mean, for some people that's the issue. For me, it's like a single player game. If you want to dress up like Iron Man, go your gang. And of course, Ubisoft is not making these over the top outfits if no one is buying them. Like, everyone was like, I want more Viking outfits, and then they released like a Viking outfit, and you saw it like on sale a few weeks later. Like, nobody bought it. And then you get like a crazy armor that breathes fire or something. And everyone's like, yeah, I want, like, a lot of people are like, what the heck is this Assassin's Creed? But because of that, it creates more hype or like more eyes on it. And then people are like, whoa, this actually looks pretty cool. When I do a video with, whoa, you can have vampire wings now, those videos do way better than, whoa, look at this new Viking armor. So I do think that works. I think mostly what you're saying is very interesting is that, what if, so Red comes out, like, I think the first year it's not going to be that weird because it will only be Red that is available. But what in 3 years? We have Red, we have Hexay, and the multiplayer game probably. That's kind of the plan right now. We will get to what the sort of cadence will be. But will then the store be like, these items are only for Red, these are for Invictus, these are for Hexay? That will be very like confusing. Oh, so I buy this set, but I cannot use it in that game. Why am I seeing it in this store that is for all the Assassin's Creed games, right? So I think that might be the issue. And that's kind of cool with Fortnite. They even made Lego skins for a lot of the skins in the game, so that if you were playing the sort of Lego mode they added, you could still use that skin that you bought.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
And maybe it crosses over. I mean, I don't know what their internal numbers are like with like Valhalla, or I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. It's
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I don't know what the internal numbers are like for unit sales on those microtransactions and stuff. I know the units on Fortnite are ridiculous. I can't think of the last time I saw a noob skin while playing a game of Fortnite. Everybody's playing with either paid or like battle pass stuff they redeem through gameplay. And they've created that culture. And I told the story in the recent video I did on this of my little brother saying he wasn't sure he wanted to play Fortnite with me unless I had a premium skin. Because if I was playing with a noob skin, his little preteen friends would make fun of me. And that's a culture that's very specifically created in that game to encourage people to spend billions of dollars every quarter on this game. And I just don't know if that environment is here for Assassin's Creed. And I'm worried if they're going to try to develop that for these games. Because it seems like that's the entire point of Assassin's Creed Infinity, is to create an Assassin's Creed Fortnite platform and ecosystem. And I'm not sure how well that works.
Maybe for Invictus, which the multiplayer game, but I'm not sure if that will be for the single player games. I think for the single player games, they already showed that the model they had, because of course I see people say, yeah, Fortnite is free, and so yeah, it makes sense that they have the microtransactions. Like, I'm not a fan like of the at one point in Valhalla we reached the point that there were more paid armor sets than free armor sets. It was kind of crazy, but on the other hand, I do think that the amount of content, if you like look at it right now, that they added post launch is way more than we've seen in any other single player game. Like the what was that? I always forget the name. Like the roguelite mode, not the Dawn of Ragnarok, but the
river one.
No. Yeah, the river raids. Yeah. They had like a lot of like cool stuff. What was the roguelite?
It's okay. I've had brain farts multiple times today too, so it's okay.
Forgotten Saga. That's it. What it's called. Like, that was a pretty awesome mode, and it was completely free. So I'm like, and they have like a big team working on this free content. So I don't mind the extra paid content as long as it's not like intrusive of the real game, and you can basically it's like completely optional. I think for Invictus, you will see other players run around with skins, so the skins make more sense.
Yeah.
But I think for the single player games, they already kind of showed that their model works, and we've seen other kind of single player games try and do this as well. Like Dying Light 2, for example, also has this sort of item pack system.
It is just interesting. Like, do they try to do the Fortnite thing where skins are kind of shared across games? Because I agree, like Invictus,
that would be crazy.
Being able to like have a cool skin for Connor, and then you're like, ooh, now I want to play as Cassandra, and Cassandra has some cool skins for her. I could see that being a thing and people connecting with that. But do they have skins you buy in Red that then cross over to that, or does each game have its own?
Maybe they will a few, but I think also what really worked, it's kind of like the FIFA Lite model, right? Every new Assassin's Creed game you start fresh, so with like 0 skins, so you have to buy new ones. So I'm not sure if they will do that. It's a very interesting, we're already kind of looking in the future right now, like. When this Infinity platform launches, it's just going to be the regular Helix store. But the big difference will be that, they will create the FOMO. So have the daily outfits that you can only buy that day, or the weekly outfits. And I like the fact that they do all the legacy outfits for free. And I don't see them change that. So if you want to, be like an old school assassin, you can probably do that day one for free if you have a Ubisoft Connect account.
Yeah.
But let's look a bit further, because we also have synchronization that allows players to access projects for each protagonist. To explain them in the simplest form, I think the synchronization and projects, you're like, okay. Projects are mini battle passes. With a narrative behind them, offering players the ability to earn cosmetic rewards. Projects will be added through Infinity constantly, focusing mainly on DLC and new game releases, or even as a means of sustaining player interest during a lack of new content. And I really think, while we are, of course, it's always good, I think, to look at what's already out there to kind of explain what Infinity probably will be, because it's completely new for the series. But I do think it will be quite different from the Call of Duty hub and the Fortnite hub, because there are still going to be purely single player experiences here. And the whole thing, I still think about it like when the Odyssey crossover content was released with Valhalla. So they basically out of nowhere launched a pretty big, like 3-hour DLC for Odyssey 3 years after that game came out. And then you suddenly had to, there was no PS5 version, so you suddenly had to like go back into your catalog, download Odyssey again. I think that is something that Infinity can really solve and be like, boom, you boot up Infinity because you want to play Red, and then it has like a pop-up. Did you know there's this huge new continent in Odyssey that you can play right now? You're like, whoa, I did not know that, or you knew it, but this will be like a shortcut to that. So you click that, they install Odyssey, or maybe only that DLC, so then you can jump in right there. So I think they're going to connect all the experiences more. And if, for example, I'm just saying, like, we know there's a Black Flag remake coming. What if that launches and then they have like a Black Flag battle pass in Red? So they're probably going to do some sort of synergies, I think, so that even if you are only stuck in one game, you're only playing Red, you still, through the battle pass or other things, know what else is going on in the franchise. I think that's kind of the plan here.
Yeah. I agree it's the plan. I think I am anxious about it because whenever a game is built around some like monetization scheme, often you don't end up with a game that is great, because when you build a game based around what's fun and then you find ways to monetize what you have, that can work. Helldivers is a fantastic example where it's just a fun game that's built really well, and then you can tell they're like, okay, let's add in a way to buy some cosmetics if people really want to, or a premium battle pass if they really want to. This, though, sounds like the entire platform and the whole concept of these interweaving interactions between games, which I agree, I think they're going to do stuff like that. Like, oh, you want this skin for your ship in the Black Flag remake? You need to get 35 stealth kills in AC Red while wearing the pirate cosmetic or something. Like, they'll do something like that to try and tie them together and synergize it. But I just don't, maybe there are examples I'm not aware of, but I can't think of a time when a game has been built from the ground up around a monetization scheme and it ends up being good.
But was that the case for Fortnite though? I like looking back at the first Fortnite, like they just made this back in the day pretty bare bones battle royale, and they now built everything else around it. But at the core, especially the no build mode, is still the battle royale. So,
but I would say the battle royale is just a fun game mode that was really good, and then the cosmetics and everything was built around the core.
Yeah.
Game.
So, but I think that is what's happening here as well. We just hear about it in an order that, Ubisoft did not intend. Like, I think when we finally hear about Red, it's just going to be about Red, about this main story, this huge open world, 100 hours of content, big RPG, as some people say. I have open world fatigue. I hope they do some different things. Like, I hope they finally maybe go a bit more, like, no, not a lot of icons, like even less so than Valhalla. But that's a different conversation. And then I think later on they will be like, yeah, and Red is like one of the things that will be part of the Infinity Hub, and this is the Infinity Hub. So I really think that we should still see them separate, but they are just looking at new ways to engage people after the launch. So I still think Red will be this full package, just like Valhalla, Odyssey, Origins, but they have this big post-launch plan that was already in Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla as well, but now they're going to do it through a battle pass, through these projects, instead of the Reda dailies or the festivals that we saw in Valhalla. Like, there were already those systems in place, and I never felt that was like hurting my Valhalla main story experience. That I also had to do dailies for Reda. Like, that always felt like a separate thing. So I hope that that's the case here as well.
Yeah, it's kind of the chicken and the egg. It's like, which came first? Did the pricing model come and the desire for live service stuff come first? Or was it the game that came first and then they tried to fit this stuff around it? And I don't think we really know until we get our hands on it. I will say, like, the common frustration for Ubisoft that I've seen from the mainstream of the gaming community has been that they feel the Ubisoft games are built in a way that's intentionally designed to try and burn as much of your time as possible. They're built to be massive. They're built to keep you engaged for long periods of time. And this is a doubling down of that through and through. I mean, without a doubt, it's a doubling down of all of that, which could be great. I mean, if they've reinvented some of these things so that, yeah, it's grindy, but all the stuff you're grinding is super fun. And so who cares? That's awesome. But it certainly seems like they were like, yeah, you guys are upset that it's all about volume and less about quality. Well, our next game is going to be about giga volume, and then everything's going to stack up on top of that, but it's going to be good this time. And I hope it is. I hope it's sick. But to me, it worries me just because it seems like it's a doubling down on the very thing that many gamers have been frustrated specifically with Ubisoft for. Could be great.
But I think that, I totally agree. And I just want to keep an open mind because I think we just know the fine details. We know things that will be part of this hub, but we don't know really what they will be.
Yeah.
And we don't know even what Red will be. So,
and things can change. I mean,
oh yeah,
just because it's described one way right now doesn't mean that's necessarily how it's going to end up in the end. Like, they might be experimenting, like we were saying, with our kind of speculative interactions between games, where it's like, oh, you want the Black Flag skin for this ship? Well, you can get the AC Red skin for Black Flag if you complete these challenges while wearing this outfit or whatever. They might experiment with that and then just decide not to do it. So just because something is ideated right now or is being thrown out doesn't mean that it will actually see the light of day. Things can change. So
yeah, 100%. I'm just worried. I mean, did you engage a lot with like the Sargon system in Odyssey and Reda in Valhalla, where, for people who don't know, this was like kind of the way, if you did your dailies and your weeklies, you got this like unique currency, and with that you could, every week they had a new selection and they could get the Helix items that were normally paid for free. So it was kind of a nice way to, okay, you have to work for it a bit more, but you can get cool items for free. But I really am afraid that with them gatekeeping these items for only a week, that they will not appear in any free shop, because then it really ruins the idea. Like, they can't be like, oh, this armor set that was only there in the second week of launch, you can get it for free now if you played a lot of dailies. I don't think that works that way. So I'm really afraid that system is on the way out, and I would be kind of unhappy about that. But I do think that is where the battle pass comes in. That will be a way for them to still say, yeah, but we still have another way to earn free cosmetics. You just have to kill 10 boars on Wednesday evening or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. For me personally, maybe I'm alone in this. I guess people in chat can back me up or tease me for this, but I just genuinely don't. It doesn't work on my brain. The like log in for dailies and then you get these rewards. I just don't care. Like, even if I am logging in daily, it just doesn't pass through my brain as like, ooh, I did that accomplishment. Here's some dopamine. It doesn't hit me like okay. B, close the menu. Like, it just doesn't hit me at all. I understand for some people that little bonus is enough for them to log into that mobile game today, because they're like, right before they go to bed, ooh, no, I got it before I go to sleep. I've got to log in. I'll be laying in bed. I might think of that and be like, I don't care. I'm going to sleep. Like, it just does not affect me at all. So.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. It was like a fun way for people who kind of play this as like an MMO more than like your single player game. And I think it's fine that the RPG games, you could like kind of live in those games if you wanted to, and could get some cool items for that. So I thought that was a nice idea. I always had this weekly stream as well, so it's kind of like a fun thing for me to do. Yeah, it was like, for me, it was like everyone we're kind of like it was really like a community based around this idea. Everyone was like, oh, what's the new weekly stuff? So that kind of helped as well. But we will see. But yeah, now that we're in March, like, that also made, like, April is when Valhalla was revealed. So, ooh,
oh, is that really?
Get close.
They did it. I mean, that, like,
it was like the final day of
compilation?
April or something. Yeah, that was like on April 29th, I think. So.
Yeah, dude, it is crazy. Like we're approaching it. Summer Game Fest is sneaking up to. I think April and May might be a little dry, but that's also a great opportunity for these companies to come in.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they already announced their investor call, but I think it will be like before that. They have not announced when they will do it, but that's usually like mid-May. So
Mid-May, maybe they announce it or drop a trailer, a
And
sizzle reel or something.
if they're still launching like Star Wars Outlaws soon, they have to talk about it soon. Otherwise, I think it is delayed.
Dude, for real,
Which
I'm so
kind of a
ready for
side
that
note,
though.
Yeah.
So ready. Real quick, thank you, Hot Wheels Kid, for the $10 super chat. Very generous, thank you. Luke, I had to do a double take at the X1C in the background. Have you printed anything yet? Yeah, for the astute of you, the box kind of gives it away because you can read it on the box. But yeah, I just got this in today. Haven't set it up yet fully, but it is a bamboo X1 carbon 3D printer, and
Damn.
it's going to be used for like D&D.
Did your office get
models.
bigger or?
Yeah, I gotta fill it in somehow, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna 3D print a bigger office. No, it is a very, very fancy schmancy printer. We'll see if it can stay there because this kind of furniture piece is a little wobbly, so it might not be the best fit for it. I might move it into the closet, but I've not printed anything yet. But next week I probably will have some stuff to show for it, because you can 3D print like big statues. People 3D print like Assassin's Creed statues or hidden blades and things. I don't know if I'm gonna go full nerd on it like that, but
You can
I'm
like
tempted.
3D print the collector's edition before it's out. That would be such a cool like unboxing the red collector's edition.
I read in a subreddit post for 3D printing, somebody said the reason that like these companies that do really fancy statues don't usually do like the 360 panorama picture thing, you know, on some websites you like click and drag and spin it. The reason they don't do that is because there's software you can use now to do the photogrammetry thing, to scan it into a 3D model, and then people just 3D print it themselves. And so they take the 3D scan of the thing, create one, a 3D model, and then print it and paint it themselves. And so they don't have to spend $2,000 on a fancy statue. They just print it themselves. So a lot of companies don't reveal that just for that, which is funny. Yeah, you should make Luke and Joraptor figures. Oh, we could do that. We could do that. Commission a sculptor to come up with something.
I have. Did I ever show that? Where do I have it? Oh wait, I see it.
Oh, now I'm worried. Is it a 3D print of me? Look at those pants. Pinstripe for the win. God, he's so cool.
I think I told you this once, but I went to this. Not sure if you can see it. Like I went to this RuneScape 30 anniversary event or something. It's like it's 15, and there I could like stand in a sort of
that's cool.
3D print thing, and then they would scan me, like this.
Oh, that's awesome! It's you.
Yeah, it's me.
That's great.
Like this, and with like a knight armor, and it was like. Yeah, fast, and you could like immediately grab it.
That's actually really
years
cool.
of RuneScape. That's probably like 10 years ago or something. RuneScape, how old?
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's tiny though, but it's 30. So it's like 8 years ago now.
Jeez, we're so old, dude. Man. Also, Mia, thank you for the 5. I'm going on a date after I see Dune later. Oh, I need to go see Dune. Hopefully my boo Jor won't be too jelly.
No, have fun. I'm going to Dune 2 on Sunday.
You doing Dune 2 too?
Dune 2. You have to watch like the first one again. I think I'm just gonna watch like a recap. I don't want to.
I still have not seen the first one, so I need to watch the first and then go straight to the movie theater. I think that's what.
That's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be overloaded, drooling in a corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go back. So yeah, we have the Infinity up. Like in short, we will have to wait and see. But right now, it kind of sounds not that exciting, and let's hope they, that it's more exciting than Tom Henderson explains it here. But yeah, then we go to the current strategy. So basically, they want to release a big mainline game every 2 years. So this year we will have Red, and then 2 years later we will have Hexe. But every 2 years, that's not enough. They will have smaller experiences in between.
Ooh.
And in 2025, there will be a multiplayer game made by For Honor and Rainbow Six Siege veterans. So probably PvP, new take on the multiplayer. So it will be different than what we saw from Brotherhood to Black Flag. And yeah, it's like a small team. A year ago, I saw like someone, an associate producer, put up like a job opening sort of like on LinkedIn. He was saying like, hey, we're recruiting. It's a small team. So I still think, because I think they started in April 2021. So they have been like working on it for then 4 years when it comes out. So we will see. We will see. But yeah, I'm curious about that. But that will be like a smaller thing. And then 2027 will be another smaller thing. And that will probably be either the Black Flag remake. Like you would think that if the Skull and Bones team is now, of course, divided between, hey, you guys, sorry, you have to make the seasons for Skull and Bones. And then the other people are going to be the Black Flag remake team. So they have like 3 years for that. I think you would think that's kind of what you want to spend on a remake, right? In terms of time, 3.5 years. But I watched a video from French YouTuber Jonathan, because another small sort of bomb that Tom Henderson dropped is that the Black Flag remake is not the only remake that they are working on. And French YouTuber Jonathan said that he heard, and of course, take it with a grain of salt, like I think all the things that Tom discussed are like probably going to happen, or at least right now they are planned. While Jonathan was kind of like, I heard this, and now that Tom is saying that it's probably going to be that there's another remake, I heard that the first one is getting a remake. And I think that, of course, makes the most sense. And look, 2027, what year is that? What does it mean for the series?
It's the year of our Lord, the 20th anniversary.
Yeah. So that would be, of course, the perfect
That's
time to launch the first game again, right?
Yeah. And I mean, that's a game that I think actually probably does need a full remake.
Oh, yeah.
It's AC2 still, granted I am biased, it still plays pretty well, but AC1 you go back to and you're like, oh my God, it feels like I'm holding the mouse upside down and I'm using my opposite hand. Like it feels very clunky and awkward to play. So I think that would be...
And you can't even play it on PlayStation, unlike PS4 or PS5.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, it's like, I mean, you can play it through 360 backwards compatibility on Xbox, but that's not possible on PlayStation. So,
I mean, if it's a really good remake that's really high production value, I could see that getting people excited. If it's just one of these like kind of half-assed, like, really, that's remade, I think it doesn't generate much interest.
Saw people speculate that it might be the Mirage team doing it, and of course with them kind of doing the iconic filter and kind of like paying homage to the first game already in Mirage, and had them of course kind of making a city. I mean, I can see it happen, but I wish they would do like their own game, but I hope they're doing their own game. Maybe or they're like remaking it and then adding like way more content or something.
Probably they would, because the original was pretty short, I think.
Yeah. 10 hours or something?
Let's see. Oh, it's longer than I thought. 14 and a half.
Oh, yeah.
It's longer than I thought. I thought it was much shorter, but...
And then main extras 20, but if you want 31 and a half, because it did have like all those annoying collectibles already, right? Or was that AC2 that started with the feathers?
I think the feathers were AC2, but AC1 I think had some collectible stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it was feathers though. It's been a minute. But
yeah, that would be perfect, right? And then again, Mirage came out last year, so it would be 4 years for this remake. Again, I hope they're doing like their own old school brand new game. I would prefer that, because I think more like a lot of other different studios could tackle the one remake as well. But we will see.
We'll see. So Flex. I mean, that's the thing with all this. They are really going to try to avoid big gaps in time. They don't
Yeah.
want, it's basically AC Valhalla was 2020. We got Mirage, which was like a smaller thing.
It
But
hurt them big time.
yeah, but years and years between big releases. So they're going to try to streamline it a lot more. They're trying to avoid big gaps, and hopefully they start to figure it out. I mean, they have the potential this year. I've been saying this for months, and I've gotten some flack for it. I stand behind it. I think this could be a great year for Ubisoft. I think this could start maybe even a comeback for them if they launch AC Red and it's received well and it really is different and polished. I think that's gonna generate a ton of hype and interest. We saw the crazy positive reception to Mirage, just because expectations were properly managed and the game was pretty good. It was what players wanted from that game. And I think Star Wars Outlaws has a ton of hype and interest behind it. They just have to deliver what they showed. And if they could do that, they're good.
2024 is like really lackluster apart from that. We did have some breaking news actually that Jeff Grubb said that, I mean, it was already kind of speculative, but Dragon Age still launching this year, at least that's the plan. So that would of course be interesting. But what else do we have? Yes, Outlaws, like we know Sony is not going to launch anything. Like Indiana Jones will be a game you probably finish in a weekend.
Yeah.
So I really think Red, like it has it can really, and maybe even Outlaws as well, reach that top 3 selling games of the year.
Yeah.
In terms of AAA, I mean, I'm not sure we should call or count Power World, but that's so crazy that will probably be in the top 3.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely mad. I do think this is a year ripe for the plucking. I think they could come in and dominate a lot of the discourse. And I mean, you're seeing it already. There's so many people that are just very, very interested in Star Wars Outlaws. The only complaint people have about Star Wars Outlaws is that it looks too good to be coming from Ubisoft. And that's a great problem to have. But it means you gotta live up to that expectation of what you've set forward in the trailers. And if they can do that, if the game is actually what they showed, we're golden. And I think Ubisoft
they
could
got
dominate.
something special.
So
Again, I think Division 2 showed that they are able to do it. Like they mostly struggle with the post-launch and the multiplayer aspects. And if this game is just their regular, like very cool missions, shootouts that they usually nail, the environments in the Division look always amazing. So I'm optimistic. Mid-Toker, thanks for being a member here. Whatever happened to that Infinity Hub thing? Well, we already talked about it. But appreciate you joining. So in short, it's probably gonna be like the Call of Duty HQ. Expect some battle passes, some stores. But we just have to wait for more information. And when there is more, we will of course discuss it on our channels and on the podcast. So let's move on. I think we kind of covered the news here. There's just a ton. Like we didn't even touch on all the other games they got planned. It was already kind of revealed, but basically with Infinity, I think that's kind of like you asked at the start, like what is the benefit for us, the players? I do think the benefit is that Ubisoft is now, it seems that they have way more freedom in what they can release. Like not all those games have to be a boxed copy that you can put in like at a GameStop. Like they don't have to release full price games anymore because they have their own publishing platform right now, and that's, they know everyone that's gonna boot up Red to play the third DLC will get a pop-up for as well. We'll see and hopefully maybe engage with as well. So we know they have Nebula, which like a game from the Sophia team, Rogue and the Curse of the Pharaohs DLC and Dawn of Ragnarok. That should be a game with 3 settings in one: India, Aztec Empire, and Mediterranean. Very interesting how they're gonna find a way to combine
I hear that, I'm
like,
what does that even mean?
yeah.
Okay.
But I'm like Aztec Empire, I'm like, yes. And that always felt like something that was maybe just too small for like a full-on crazy game, but now they can finally do it because maybe this game is $40. Like maybe they can experiment with, hey, we're gonna publish this smaller game while we wait for Hexe or something, right? So I think that's like a cool sort of thing they can experiment with.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I
Okay.
with all that, I think there's a ton of potential here. I think the big question mark around Infinity is just simply why. Like, I think I understand the appeal of like a unified launcher, not having to do standalone things. You have, of course, a built-in marketing machine because you can distribute that to all of the games all at once. But I think to players, there's going to need to be a pretty compelling explanation of why this is better than just releasing games on Steam.
Yeah, the modern day is like, I mean, it will still launch on Steam, probably, right? But it will just be that, or I mean, they are not launching on Steam, but if they were, it would probably still launch on Steam. It's just that every time you buy on the PlayStation Store, Xbox Store, or whatever, an Assassin's Creed game, you have to go through the launcher first. I think that's
the way I understood it, and maybe it doesn't work that way or whatever, but it sounds like to get AC Red, you're gonna like download AC Infinity on Steam, and then from Infinity, you buy the game.
No. It's still separate, I think.
Okay, but I agree. That's
at least that's what they. Yeah.
So
no, I think that would hurt them actually.
I agree.
They don't want to like ruin what they already have. They just want. I mean, you already, when you boot up Assassin's Creed right now, have this franchise menu right now, right? Where you see like where you can like, they added that post launch, and Mirage had it at launch, where you can like click on it and then see, hey, there's Valhalla, Odyssey, and Unity or whatever they put in there. I think that's what it's gonna be. So it's probably going to be integrated in the game. But before you, go to the menu for Red, you will see the Infinity menu first. But we will see. We will see. Some sad news. A lot of layoffs this week.
Many.
This was really sad for me, Guerrilla Games.
Yeah. Very literally close to home.
Yeah. I saw them pack their stuff in real time now. But they're like
I parked outside and watched them leave.
Yeah. I grabbed my binoculars, looked out the window, and there they go. I was like counting them. Yeah, 40 people.
Like, Jor, that's gonna be real. That's a little weird.
Yeah. So what happened? Do you want to talk?
Yeah, I mean, it's we've discussed it on the stream a little bit. It's just they announced that they are laying off about 8% of their total workforce, which is roughly 900 people. And, immediately employees start to express their understandable frustration. It's hitting everybody. Naughty Dog is seeing layoffs. Insomniac, Guerrilla, even like their most successful studios are seeing layoffs. And it's not super clear if there's a consistent strategy to the layoffs. Like, sometimes you might see, okay, we just discovered an amazing new, or like maybe they decide they're going to change engines, and so they're laying off their engineering staff for their engine coding team. That makes sense. You don't need them anymore. You lay them off. With this, it's not clear if there is a clear or a broad reason. It almost seems like they just told their studios, lay off X percentage of your employees to hit these budgetary goals.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
There's one studio, like one big one, missing.
Bungie?
From the US ones. No. Yeah, but I think Bungie's still like kind of separate. And they, of course, had their own layoffs already. Santa Monica.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I think, interesting. And I think it really is because God of War, or like Santa Monica, is now their golden goose. Like that is because that game, Ragnarok, sold almost as much as like Spider-Man, or it has now sold more, but it's of course 1 year like out for 1 year longer. But they get to keep all the money.
Yeah.
When you buy God of War Ragnarok on the PlayStation Store, Sony gets 100% of everything. When you buy a physical disc, they of course have to, they get way less from that. But for Spider-Man, we learned that Marvel takes 26% of the digital sales. 26%. So if Spider-Man sells 10 million, then 2.6 million of those copies go to Marvel. While with God of War, it's everything for Sony. So I really think that with, of course, the things we heard about Insomniac, and how much, like, because that's kind of what is happening here. Of course, first of all, it's extremely sad, and Sony is still doing great. Like, the PS5 is probably going to sell 21 million in the last couple of 12 or the last 12 months. It's doing great, but the problem really is that their profits are just really bad. And I think talked about it last week or the week before as well, that they're really at 6% profit right now. So they make 21 billion, but they only have like 6% of that is profit. And with a game like Spider-Man that is like has a budget of 300 million, they have to sell 7.6, I think it was, to even break even. And then they now sold a little over 10 million. So they only made profit from 2.6 million copies. And then they have to give everything to Marvel as well. So that game, sure, did super well. But I think they're just looking at that studio and be like, but if we lay off this X amount and try to figure out a way to still get the same quality going, then we can, then the budget for the next game will be less, sadly. And I think for Santa Monica, because those people, the God of War is Sony owned, so it's like a huge thing. And Horizon Forbidden West, like for Guerrilla, just did not do that well, or it has not even reached 10 million probably, which is for a game that also cost 220 million. Still, it's like the second game in that franchise. I think a lot of people would murder for that, like for those sales. And it's coming to PC, of course. But I still think that studio also cost them a ton of money. So I think that was kind of what was interesting to me. Like, why Naughty Dog, Insomniac, and Guerrilla, but not the other big one? Why not Santa Monica? And I really think that that's because God of War is like insane what they make on that.
No, I think that would make sense. It's the whole thing is just crazy because everybody's looking at it, and they're, from a fan perspective, you're like, PlayStation's winning the generation, they're outselling Xboxes 2-1, like how could they be in financial straits? But it's like, sometimes you have to pay to win, and PlayStation has been paying to win with big releases like Spider-Man, to release big games like Ragnarok, and they've paid a lot to try and develop live service games to make up some of that money, many of which, like you tweeted out, like 4 of the 12 they were working on have just been straight up canceled. And all of that affects your margin, all of those expenses. When Naughty Dog works for years to make a live service game and it doesn't go anywhere, and at this point probably well over $100 million is just wasted effectively, that money has to go somewhere on the balance sheet, and it's an expense, so it harms that margin. And the current guy that is the now interim CEO of PlayStation, who is the COO of Sony, he is like no nonsense budget guy. He comes in, his job is to evaluate the budget, and even if it means he cuts half the staff, he's going to do it because that's his job. And that's precisely why the board of directors put him in this position to rework PlayStation, because we all look at PlayStation as the kings of the gaming industry, but that doesn't mean that they are like performing where they should be as a tech company. And as a tech company, their margins are way too tight compared to where they should be, considering their position in the market. And that's why they're laying people off now. And the way that they did it was really kind of slimy and sleazy. There was this picture that went viral of Jim Ryan. This was, I think, the day before he was
5 days
five days before the announcement. But this is right before he's set to retire, and he's from the UK, and he's said before he like considered London home and stuff like that, so he liked working out of London, and so he went to visit London studios. Everybody in this picture lost their jobs 5 days later. Everybody.
So
He's
Succession shit, man.
yeah, it's like it's why they
Oh my
say,
God.
hey, he kind of seems like an alien wearing a human mask. And this is kind of why, because like
He knew.
he's literally
knew.
rubbing elbows. His elbows are rubbing on the employees. He's rubbing elbows and smiling, letting them all suck up to him because he's the boss. So I'm sure they're saying, you've done such a great job. You're an inspiration. They're sucking up to him because he's the boss. And then he goes, hops in the limousine, and it's like, it's a shame.
Going to that studio that 5 days later it would close, because that's not what we even like discuss. So again, you have the layoffs at like the bigger companies, but they straight up closed London studio, responsible for VR Worlds, and they did Blood and Truth, also a VR game, and they were working on their own live service fantasy game, that also now got cancelled. And 5 days before that, they had this party. Oh, thank you, Jim Ryan.
Yeah,
And it's
sending
like,
him off.
Good luck with the game.
See
Good luck.
You see the
And he knew.
text? She says, farewell, Jim Ryan. Wave, salute. Like, they were stoked on him because he was like their fearless leader. Turns out, a little bit of a sociopath. And like, I understand there's the need as a corporate executive
Just don't go there.
to lead people
Don't
or
go
lay
there.
people off. I can't think of another time that somebody has gone days before firing everybody to just like boost their ego. To be fair, somebody did say in the comments of the video, I did discussing this initially, they said, well, let's be fair and potentially give him the benefit of the doubt. It's possible he went here to meet with the executives of PlayStation London studio and like talk to the leadership of that studio and be like, hey, we're going to be laying off the studio. We're shutting it down. This is how we're going to do it. Because whenever you do layoffs, you do meet with the managers and give them a heads up so they can get their ducks in a row. So it's possible he was coming here, and he probably was, to meet with the executive team to explain the studio's being shut down and you're all out of a job, or we're going to move you over here or whatever. That's probably why he was there. It wasn't just for a party. It's still an insanely bad look to take pictures smiling and laughing with everybody when you know that they're all about to be fired. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Just be
weird.
like in and out. Just be like in and out. Not
Dude,
make a big deal about it.
I'd put a paper bag over my head. I wouldn't want to, like, I'd feel so bad, but that's probably why I'm not in
Yeah, but I
position
think
like that.
Sony is also like super secretive. Like they didn't want this to leak, and it did not. So maybe people that were there were like, Jim was here, and he was like running outside the door. Like he jumped out the window. He made a run for it. It was kind of weird. Maybe there's something going on.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's just I've been saying for years that Jim Ryan, it's like I just don't like the guy. I don't trust him. I don't think he's there's just a general stank around him, and I just don't like the guy. And now he's retired, and I think just now everybody's starting to get the same gut vibe, which is just that, like, even if you're taking pictures to keep up appearances, this is just kind of gross, and it just makes you feel bad. But the not laying off anybody at Santa Monica is very interesting.
Yeah,
It suggests they have some stuff they're pretty confident about that they don't want to mess with. It also perhaps implies that there's Insomniac, like they just released something, so laying people off now early in development.
The situation with Insomniac is interesting because we know their whole future plan.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's not a growth plan. It's like a let's not do Spider-Man because after 3 games people are kind of over it, and that's fine. Let's do this less popular Marvel project and make a Ratchet and Clank game, while we know that the Ratchet and Clank we just put out did not even break even. And we're gonna do a new IP that we usually try new IPs that nobody buys. I'm happy that they're doing a new IP, but also with their whole, it seemed that everyone was going to work on like Wolverine and the X-Men games, and then they have this team working on a new IP as well in 2030 or 2032. It's kind of like a weird, I'm not seeing like a very ambitious plan. Like
Yeah.
I don't see Wolverine selling more than Spider-Man, and then they're gonna do 3 games of that. So it's kind of weird. While I do think God of War can really, and we have like still Cory Barlog there as well. Like I hope he's like
He's cooking.
figuring out he's cooking his new kind of game.
I
Naughty Dog of course as well, but I think also part of the layoffs were maybe people that were there for a long time, or I mean for the online game that of course
Yeah.
got canceled. So
That's my vibe, is that I think Insomniac is about to go into sort of like if they were sprinting during the hype around Spider-Man, now they're kind of slowing down to go for more of the marathon thing. So they're going to focus less on rapid expansion and crazy ambitious stuff like you're saying. As for Naughty Dog, I totally agree. I think they hired a lot of people to get that online game going, and they probably, unfortunately, don't really need a lot of the like network engineers anymore. They just don't. So I think that probably is cause for some of the layoffs. London studio, unfortunately, they really have not had a big banger, so it's not that surprising. As for
and then like that VR or that live service game would really look like like a coin flip, and probably one of those games that comes out and is like, yeah, it's not it. They did not have experience with live service. They did VR stuff, but Sony is trying to make PC or like the VR headset work on PC, so they don't have to make games for it anymore.
Yeah.
So
I think with all of this, just like that interview, it was so interesting from the interim CEO, where he's just like, it's a fresh set of eyes. He comes in and he's like, I don't know what the hell we're doing, greenlighting all of these projects. Well over 80% of them are probably going to flop, in the hopes that we get a couple of hits in the live service space. It's like, this is insane. We're wasting so much money. And I think it's very likely that you see games like Concord potentially even canceled. I think Fair Games potentially gets canceled.
it seems far along enough, though. Yeah,
Maybe
I
we
don't
just
know.
haven't seen anything specific for it other than that trailer. So maybe it sees the light of day, and maybe it's a Helldivers 2 surprise hit. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
But I just think it's Jim Ryan's whole thing for this generation was the live service push, and as a result, he caused a lot of their best studios to waste a lot of time and a lot of money.
He really, and I think you said it one time on the podcast, like we've really seen the Sean Layden era kind of carry PlayStation with like an amazing PS4 lineup to the PS5. But really, if you look at the PS5, we've just seen a continuation of that. We've seen the sequels for the new IPs that they started in during the PS4 generation. We're even getting like Death Stranding 2, like Ghost of Tsushima 2, Ragnarok, Forbidden West, Spider-Man 2. It's all the sequels. They're only making sequels now. And so when Jim Ryan came in, it was like, okay, those work. Let's make another one of those. And I'm gonna spearhead this live service initiative. And I'm happy that Helldivers 2 is doing very well, but that kind of seems like a sort of a surprise hit for them, even, because if they were like really thought what they had, they would have maybe marketed it more. But it kind of came out, and then word of mouth really carried that game, and I'm happy that it's doing so well.
And I think it's also telling that Helldivers 2's the predominant success of that game, at the very least the majority of it, by some reports 60 to 70% of the player base, it's all on PC. And you know, Sony would certainly rather that were the game were super popular on PS5 too, and it is popular, but it's really popular on PC.
But I think what they're seeing is that it's helping the PS5 version. Like especially this game that is so community focused is helping. I really think because it's so big on PC, because way more streamers are playing it, the PS5 version is doing way better. And I really hope this shows them, what if we launch the next God of War day one on PC as well? It will probably, like, I think when you do that, the sort of Times Square ads make way more sense. Like you have this one moment where everyone needs to focus on this game, and with the budgets rising and rising, I think we will only see more of them drop day one on PC.
Yeah,
which is like a positive thing, like a cool card they can still play.
I do think like the other big thing that this current interim CEO is obsessed with, and he in an article like 2-3 years ago when he was promoted to COO, or maybe even last year, it was relatively recently. It wasn't like he wasn't directly involved in the gaming space or anything. He was just COO of Sony. He was described in like these business magazines and newsletters as a man, quote, obsessed with growth. And that's part of the reason they put him in there, was because they wanted to grow the business, not just tread water. And I think for him coming in and running PlayStation for however long he's running it, I think the name of the game for him is going to be increasing margins. These layoffs are part of that. Growing margin, which is shrinking dev times, shrinking scope and scale of these games, making them more profitable, stopping wasting money on live service games that go nowhere. And then you're also going to see growth of their player bases, probably by bringing more games to PC, especially when the hype is at the highest. And I think that's a great idea. I mean, I can understand why PlayStation fans are going to be very pissed and throw fits, just like the Xbox fans did.
Really?
I think.
I mean, the Xbox fans are mostly because it's going to PS5. I mean, on Xbox, everything is PC already. So
yeah. I still think like there was plenty of people saying that PlayStation was dead when they announced they were bringing like God of War and like The Last of Us Part 1.
Oh yeah, but I'm really of the mind that those are like the vocal minority. And
I agree. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people throwing fits about it. I don't think it moves the needle one bit. Like, are people really going to sell their PS5s who have tied their personality to it?
I hope they do, because I will not be missing them. Goodbye. But we had more sad news, unfortunately, because this one was kind of wild. It was the day after the Sony layoffs. Oh, by the way, about the Sony layoffs, Guerrilla Games. I mean, we also had like the Twisted Metal live service game canceled. So again, 4 live service games now canceled. Lost of Us multiplayer, London Studio, Twisted Metal, and the Deviation game, which was like from Black Ops veterans, I think. They were at Jeff Keighley Summer Game Fest once. But yeah, Sony pulled the plug on them, which is kind of crazy. But the Guerrilla Horizon multiplayer game is still in development. I was kind of like surprised that people were picking up that news. I was like, of course. That is like the big game they're working on right now. They would be laying way more people off if that game was still canceled, and they're still hiring for that game as well. A lot riding on it, I feel. But that's my final note on that. But yeah, this one is also interesting, and yeah, kind of in the same vein. EA also is like, everyone is laying off people, so we can get away with it as well. Kind of feels like that. Of course, these decisions are made well in advance, and it's everyone. I mean, EA is not struggling. I want to say everyone is struggling, but the EA is not. EA is doing really well for them, but they're still like, oh, we can maximize shareholder value even more if we lay off 5% of our employees. 670 people are IP. But the biggest sort of thing from this is that they canceled the first-person Star Wars game that we learned about 2 weeks ago. That it was like a Mandalorian game from Respawn. They would include some ideas that they first had for Titanfall 3. I mean, Mandalorian, we discussed, I think, as well. That's the perfect video game. But no, they're canceling it. And yeah, they're gonna still do the Jedi 3 game, Iron Man and Black Panther as well in terms of licensed games. But really, the reason why they canceled it, and yeah, they by the way want to like develop fewer new titles. They're really moving away from development of future licensed IP that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industries, and they want to focus like mostly on their own IP and the sports games. So they're basically saying, yeah, we can, again, the licensing fees for Disney are insane. 26% for Spider-Man for every digital copy sold. It's probably the same for Star Wars, you would think. EA is like, we can way better make a Battlefield game and get all the money ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's happening. But it was kind of sad to hear about that. I was kind of looking forward to that Mandalorian game already, even though we did not see it yet.
I mean, it's maybe this is the big trend with a lot of these like breaking news events and the change in focus. Like we heard that, you know, Marvel's taken 26% of copies of those games that move, and it just goes to show you, I think for a lot of these big companies, they did the licensed thing because it's really easy to be like, look, it's a Spider-Man game. It's what you wanted. Boom. Yay. And that can sell games for sure. But you can make like just as much money if you have like a pretty good non-licensed game versus a really good licensed game, just because the shares of the revenue that have to get cut out to go to the licensee or licensor is so crazy high. It's just not reasonable, which, like you said earlier, with Santa Monica Studio having the full rights to God of War, and rumors are that they're launching a new IP as well. You know, they're not just sitting on their hands. Naughty Dog is also working on presumably a new IP as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see some stuff pop in the next year or two that's fresh. But I think that we're just seeing across all of media and entertainment right now sort of a fatigue with established IP that are just seemingly, at least the perception is, they're being milked for all their worth, and people are starting to cool off on it a little bit, in the same way like we said with Spider-Man 2 not generating quite the hype or interest that the original game did. Still selling well, but just not as dominating and as much of a discussion piece, and the margins certainly don't help that discussion, so they're just trying to find new things to do. It's unfortunate because this thing sounded interesting. It basically sounded like Star Wars Doom, but
Yeah.
Or I guess Star Wars Titanfall, basically. But
Yeah, but also Doom elements. Yeah.
It's just not going to see the light of day, apparently.
No, and I also made like a tweet about it, because that kind of like what we've kind of already touched on, but it kind of also made me think of the discussion we had on Avatar and Star Wars with Ubisoft, because Ubisoft, before even releasing Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar, already said, yeah, this team that is now making those licensed games is now going to do Division 3 next. So they're not even waiting for the potential huge success of Star Wars Outlaws. They're already like, no, we know this team after this will make Division 3, because they, of course, own it. And I think also what we discussed around the Avatar release, the whole thing where these developers probably have to go through a lot of certification and talking to this team that is in the US. They have to greenlight everything they want to change in the game or something. The development was probably way slower than on a Division, where they can think of like an enemy with a flamethrower and immediately make it and put it in the game.
Exactly.
So maybe that's also another, I think, part that we, of course, as consumers, as gamers, don't see. But yeah, owning your own IP has another value, and EA is really focused on they've been talking about like making their own social platform around these games. Like what they're really seeing is that, for example, The Sims is a perfect example. There's like a whole sort of huge audience that only plays The Sims, and they own that, and everything they do with The Sims is their own, and everything they put in, they benefit from it. And I think the best example is also FIFA. Like they also said to FIFA, we don't need your name anymore, your license. We're gonna make our own soccer game, and yeah, everything we put in, we have way more freedom in who we want to like partner with and stuff, and we make way more money because we don't have to pay. We don't even know what the money was that they paid to FIFA for their name, but probably a lot. So that's another benefit. And again, like I think also like you said, you can like probably make the same quality game and then maybe have it sell a bit less, but still make more money than if you made like a Star Wars game that maybe sold a few million copies more, and you own it yourself, so you can maybe invest more in that franchise. But on the other hand, new IPs are super hard as well. We talked about Immortals last week, so that of course, like I still think that's not like there were many issues with that game, but it's like hard either way. But I do think first it was like, because I think the Deus Ex team, for example, that made Guardians of the Galaxy, they probably thought this like a slam dunk. Like we're making a super popular Marvel game. It's a really good game as well, but it still flopped. So if even your Marvel game flops, like it's not a safe bet anymore to put like a popular franchise name on it. So Bethesda, good luck. Indiana Jones, I'm not seeing a lot of hype for it. So we will see.
Yeah, I've heard people with Indiana Jones, I think it showed really well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, like in day-to-day conversations on stream and stuff, I see many more people bringing up Star Wars Outlaws than Indiana Jones, for example. Or like Dragon's Dogma 2, but that's closer. It's going to be very interesting to see how Indiana Jones plays out. Blade, I know some people are crazy for Blade. I just don't see that being that huge, but that might just be that I'm not huge into comic books and stuff. And I'm kind of burnt out on superhero things, but maybe it blows up. I just don't see that being huge either. But Indiana Jones, I think, could be big. But as for whether it crosses into the mainstream and you get some mainstream
that's
success,
what needs
is
to
gonna be a
happen.
question.
Yeah.
But
yeah, would it like that? I think that will be the question when it's all said and done. Like, did they really benefit from calling this Indiana Jones, or should they have just made their own Uncharted game? Like, what is the best? What would have been the best approach? Are they really getting more eyes on them because they have Harrison Ford in the game?
yeah, it's a good question. It's certainly not as big of an IP as it once was.
No.
I forgot there
And
was another
the
Indiana
movie
Jones.
hurt.
Yeah, I forgot there was
It
another
hurt
movie
even.
recently.
Yeah.
But time will tell. I just think we're at a very, like, in 5 years, 10 years, we're gonna look back at 2024 as like a pivotal year where the industry is gonna shift a lot, and we're gonna see the beginning of a lot of those shifts. And I think it's with smaller budget and scope AAA games. You're not going to see a lot of the massive games dropped casually anymore. I don't think you see kind of big risks with new IPs like Forspoken ever again, really. I think games are going to have to really earn their budgets. Franchises will have to earn their budgets with really successful first games, and then the sequel comes out and it's even bigger and crazier, and the third is just blowing your brain. Kind of like the progression of The Witcher, where it starts really small, next one's a bit bigger, and then the third one blows your brain. I think that's what we're going to start to see, and that's what it used to be like. But then for a while, all of these big publishers and companies started thinking that they could just put $200 million into anything and it would be successful, and that's just not how it works. And players are just not willing to spend $70 on any random thing just because it looks fancy or they spent a ton of time working on it. So
I mean, if we learn anything from this year, is that Helldivers 2 and Palworld are the most successful games in those. I mean, Helldivers 2 looks pretty great graphically, but for example, Palworld is not a very stunning game, and that probably had like the budget. I think they shared the budget like 30 million or something compared to a Spider-Man. So it's like 10 times more for Spider-Man.
Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh man, I won't show it right here because a lot of you guys are listening. But some gameplay footage just leaked of full like Humvees in Helldivers 2.
Oh yeah, I think I saw it. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
So
I guess it
it's-
technically leaked
it's-
like a day ago. So
So how is it getting leaked? Like I think I saw some people say that they saw like someone joined their game and suddenly had all these items or something.
yeah,
So
it might
interesting.
have been a dev. There are conspiracy theories suggesting that maybe this is like a guerrilla marketing campaign where they're just doing
that's
this
pretty cool.
in this clever way with the community. Not a bad idea. Like, it's obviously gaining a ton of traction. People are talking about it, so it's working just as well as if you just released a trailer showing it. But other than that, some people are saying it's hackers. I don't know how you'd be able to hack this, but maybe it is. If it were hackers, I would expect to see a lot more people running into this than just like one guy that has seen it. But I don't know. I don't know. But it shows really well. I mean, for leaked footage, normally leaked footage looks kind of crappy, but this is like really good and people are very excited. So that's why I could see it potentially being like being intentional, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Just maybe, because it's like it looks so good. It almost seems like if this
It
isn't
seems like
intentional,
they are,
it's a good problem to have.
and it seems pretty far. I mean, they had the Max as well. It seems pretty far along. So, I mean, they worked on this game for a really long time, and it seems to have been delayed a couple of times. Maybe to get like a sort of 1 year roadmap planned. They've been hiring, I think, as well to speed up development. But
Yeah.
curious if they can keep it rolling. I think right now I think it did dip a bit, the concurrent players, but it's still like very high, obviously.
Yeah, just a tad. We'll see what this
Oh
weekend
no,
is like.
no, it's still really good.
Yeah.
It's insane.
They're at like
360.
200. Oh, where are they now?
360.
Oh, wow. Earlier
on
today
PC.
on stream, we checked and it was like 240 or something. So
Yeah, I saw that as well. So I was like, oh, it dipped a bit, but no, it's still
yeah,
insane.
we're popping off.
Good on them. Good on them.
So
I think that's we wanted to focus like kind of on these three big news stories. I think that's kind of the most important stuff here.
yeah, absolutely.
I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's amazing. It's really, really good.
Yeah, it's
So,
very, very good. Pretty all right. Thank you for re-upping your membership. What are your thoughts on GTA 6 devs being upset returning to the office 5 days a week? Possible crunch issue or delay? Appreciate you guys and the podcast. My perspective on it, like, I know the easy reaction is like, boo-hoo, you're working like in an office and you have to go into the office, boo-hoo for you. But the reason they're upset and devs are upset about this is because many of them were hired specifically for like semi-remote work, going into the office 2-3 days a week. If you have kids and you have like all of your daycare, childcare figured out, where you go into the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and now all of a sudden you have to double that is very expensive. So for some of these people, it's the difference between like being financially stable and being totally broke just over childcare. So it can have a very real impact on people's lives, specifically when they've gotten used to not working in the office, being able to stay home with the kids or whatever else. Some people, I'm sure, are just upset because they like working from home and working in their PJs. I'm sure that's some people, but for others,
Yeah, it's mostly like, it's mostly what they were promised. That suddenly some people even moved away probably, and now they're like, wait.
Yeah, it's easier to do like an hour commute to the office if you only do it twice a week. So you can move a little further away, buy a house, get some more space than working in the big city and living there. But now all of a sudden being told, no, 5 days a week, you have to drive an hour to the office. That can start to get more frustrating. So I understand the frustration, but I also totally understand Rockstar's perspective, which is we've had a ton of leaks and we ain't going to have more. So everybody's going to come into the office until we launch the game.
And the belief still is that I listened to a podcast from the person who did The Witness, the developer behind that. Steve, no, I'm not sure, but and they were also talking about like they have like a remote work as well, but then once per 3 months they fly everyone out to the office, and they really notice like that for game development it just works better in the office, it seems, than having to download huge files to test the game all the time. And it's a very collaborative effort. Like if something breaks, you can just walk to someone's desk. I think it's just it just works better for some situations, especially with a big game like GTA 6 that it has to be really polished. It might be more beneficial as well in that regard.
Yeah. And I mean, it's still a hotly debated thing. People will point to like there was a study done that we talked about on stream the other day. There was a study done recently where they didn't find a significant difference between productivity working remote and working in the office. I'd say it's a study, and as with all studies, there are usually conflicting ones, and you have to figure out where the consensus lies after the fact. It's very dependent on the industry, it seems. Some industries you can work remote and it's just fine. Being a lawyer, I don't think you need to be in the office with your clerks and stuff, or with your paralegals. I think you can do all of that through Zoom. That's fine. But game development seems like one where working directly with each other in the office, in the studio, could certainly be very helpful. And at the end of the day, like, it's a free market. If the Rockstar employees really don't want to work in the office, they don't have to work at Rockstar. They can move somewhere else. Of course,
Yeah,
that
but then
sucks.
will you still be in the credits? Will you still release the biggest game of your career?
Yeah,
Of-
no, and that's part of it. Is like, for a lot of
Yeah.
people, it's like a huge achievement, as it should be, to work at a place like Naughty Dog or Rockstar or Santa Monica, whatever. And so you kind of have to shut up and just go along with it. And that's just, I would say that's how it works in most jobs, is that sometimes it's just, you got to unfortunately shut up to keep your boss happy. It's unfortunate for them. If I was in their position, I'd be frustrated too, but it's also like, you're working on the most anticipated video game of the last decade. So there's going to be some high standards, I think, some hoops to jump through. Judson, thank you for the 5. I blamed more Disney than, or I blame Disney more than EA because they make them harder. They make them harder, make a games about Star Wars or any Disney's. They have to approve what they want. I think you mean working with Disney is more difficult, and it's more on Disney's difficult collaboration than it is EA just wanting to downsize. It's possible, but I mean, it's also just about margins. Why sell something that you have to give up 25% of if you don't have to? Like, they're just going to work on the thing that they think they can make more money on. Fearless Wolf, also, thank you for the £5. CEOs lacking game knowledge make bad games. Hey, prioritize profit over player experience. Looking at you, David Zaslav. Yeah, no, and you can tell when decisions are made by non-gamers. It's my biggest frustration with Jim Ryan is that he's not a gamer. And you could tell by the projects he was greenlighting, by the things he was choosing to do and prioritize. You could tell it was like, hello, fellow youths. It was that vibe. And say what you will about Sean Layden, but Sean Layden was a gamer. Phil Spencer is a gamer, and you can tell. I think.
But to be fair, though, you do see also the issues that, like, you have to have the fair balance. I am like, we talked about the new interim CEO coming in and kind of looking at the books and being like, what the heck are you guys doing? And I think the problem mostly is that Sony is mostly being run by very creative people that want to make the best game possible. And that's probably why those budgets are going crazy. So you do need business people as well. And I totally think, like, if you are like the boss, like, for example, Herman Hulst, I think that's great that he is from Guerrilla Games. He worked on games, like, he probably has a great understanding of what goes into making all these games. But I also think it's good to have someone else that is, like, very focused on the business, looking at everything as well.
Yeah, I mean, what Steve Jobs described in the early days of Apple when they founded that, because he co-founded Apple with Steve Wozniak, of course. And he said, in any successful business, you need the hippie and you need the nerd. I think he might have said geek, but it was like, you need the hippie and you need the nerd. And because you need the creative mind and you need the guy that's focused on just matter of fact. You need the left brain, right brain, and they complement each other. And sometimes, just to be clear, it's not always that these businesses, like Phil Spencer is not the only one making decisions at Xbox. He has a team of people he works with to make decisions. But I do think it's important to have somebody at the helm of your gaming company who is a gamer and cares about gaming at its core. It's
not helping Xbox that much, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, if you like think about that gaming output after buying all these studios, I still think.
I would also say, I mean, the transactions are relatively young. The acquisitions are pretty young. It's going to be a while before you start to see the decisions from Xbox, what they've chosen to greenlight or not. Like, granted, they should have shut down like Redfall, but their goal was to leave the studios open and free to do whatever. So it's only after Redfall, seemingly, that they've gotten involved in the running of these companies more directly. Justin, also thank you for the 5. This will wrap us up. Do you guys think PlayStation will do a PC PS5 same day release going forward? Plus, was Sucker Punch spared of layoffs?
Yeah, Sucker Punch was spared, so that's another interesting one. And yeah, they are already relatively small compared to the other studios, though. It's kind of wild that they're making like this huge open world game that is totally of the same quality as other ones that we see. Like Ubisoft has 1,000 people working on Assassin's Creed, for example. Um, but yeah, I think so. I think laying that off while they're probably close to finishing Ghost 2 would have really hurt them. While I think the other studios are just in different periods right now. And Guerrilla Games, for example, as much as I love them, it did feel like they were really like they of course hired a lot during COVID as well. And I think they kind of were expecting more from the Horizon franchise than there's probably there. Like they hired a lot of community developers, franchise people that were working on multimedia stuff. And yeah, it's still probably selling, but again, I think if you're a sequel, like Ragnarok sold way more than the first game in the same period, and Forbidden West is, I think, doing kind of similar and now behind Zero Dawn. So that's not a good thing. So maybe they were like, maybe Horizon is not as crazy, and
Yeah.
we will see for Sucker Punch. And the PS5 same day thing, I think Sony wants that, but we also have to remember though, and that's of course another studio that did not get hit, like Nixxes, their port team. They only have Nixxes. That's like a relatively small team, also in the Netherlands. And they have some of their own studios working on PC ports as well. But we all know how that went with Naughty Dog. Did not go well. Horizon also, or Guerrilla also did the Horizon Zero Dawn port, was also not really good when it came out. So I think Sony might want it, but and that's also kind of where these layoffs came from. They were like, okay, so we now have people in place to make these enormous $300 million single player games for the PlayStation 5. But that's the growth there's no growth there anymore. So we need to go to mobile and PC. So we're probably laying off these people that are helping with this strategy that is not working for us, and maybe looking at another PC port studio or whatever to maybe get more out of that. But I think right now, even if they wanted to, do they have do they have enough resources to have Ghost to launch on PC day one? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's not like a toggle where you just
Yeah.
PC. There's a lot more that goes into it. And one of the frustrations I think people potentially had about the Xbox thing of bringing games to other platforms on day one potentially was just that all of a sudden dev resources are spread. Like if you're already struggling to polish and refine your games for Xbox and PC, adding in another platform day one really seems like a bad idea. And Sony is generally pretty good at polish, but the PC ports have been one of the most inconsistent parts of their business recently, because either it's pretty good or it's terrible. It seems like there's not a lot of a middle ground. So but yeah, it's all told very pivotal moment in the industry. I think by in the next few weeks we probably start to see some hopefully announcements or hear rumblings of what's to come later this year or at Summer Game Fest.
We kind of need some good news. Yeah
And my fingers are crossed that we get some bangers later this year. I have a feeling we will. I think
there are probably a few games that we don't know about yet.
Yeah. So we're gonna go keep playing Helldivers and Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
Rocking and rolling. Thank you everybody who joined us in
thanks a lot.
Stream live. We appreciate it. Everybody who is super generous with super chats and re-upping our memberships to the Luke Stevens live channel. Appreciate you guys as well. Of course, if you listen to this as a podcast on the go, we appreciate ratings. That's always tremendously wonderful. We appreciate that dearly. And
we're at a 5-star on Spotify, so let's keep that up.
Yeah.
If you have Spotify,
I know.
Go there.
Somebody out
we
there
have
is
some
thinking,
extra.
I'll go for it.
No, don't.
I was like, don't you
I'll
dare.
find you. Yeah. We have the perfect 5-star rating. We had some extra. We're almost at 50 ratings right now. So let's check back next week. If you are rating, we might notice you.
Yeah.
But keep it 5 stars. Come on.
Our very acknowledgement is reward enough for you guys.
Oh, I see Mr. B say check Shogun. Cool show. Yeah, I want to do that. Disney Plus, right? What's the
Really?
Spotify called? It's the Free Roam podcast.
Yeah, Free Roam, baby. Free Roam podcast. Oh, baby. You guys are all wonderful. I love you all dearly. We will see you early next week or next week. You guys are wonderful. Stay safe, everybody. Much love. We'll see you in the next episode. Okay. Hugs and kisses, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.